All right. And starting the show with a a section from the late Peter Bogdanovich's great comedy, What's Up, Doc? It's really a setup for my closing music today, which you'll understand after we talk to our guest today. I want to welcome him, Michael Oliphants, who is one of our technicians, CLT, from the Humanities Theater program. And he is the winner. Well, let me pull it up and I get this right, of the second annual Godfrey Chi Ping CLT Service Award. Welcome.
Thanks, Hugo. Glad to be here.
Welcome, Michael. And I told you a little bit about how we do the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your studies before LaGuardia?
Yeah, absolutely. I studied theater and education, got my BA from Colgate University, class of 2002. Then I went on to continue my studies in theater, got my MFA in stage management from Columbia in 2006. And at that point, I started working off Broadway, Broadway, kind of anywhere I could work as a stage manager. Just kind of getting experience in the field.
And I didn't realize that. I mean, I went to Yale, and so I hung around the Yale rep, and I know about Yale's theater program. I didn't realize is Columbia's program a good program?
Yeah, it is. When I started there, I was in the first year of its stage management program. So technically, I was the first stage management graduate from Columbia. I think because my name came first alphabetically, I was I was handed the diploma first. But it was a new program, so we were kind of the guinea pigs. But the theater program is well established, and then it has one advantage it has over a place like Yale is that it's in New York City and has access to everything that New York has to offer.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think I've never understood Yale, except I know that the Schubert Theater and everybody used to open you'd open in New Haven to get ready for Broadway. But you're right, the fact that the proximity to still, I think, probably the most important theater district in the world, short of possibly
Yeah,
London's,
absolutely, and
right?
that's a big part of what brought me to Columbia. I was looking. I wanted to go into stage management. I had worked for a year after college outside of Philadelphia as a technical director, and I know that's what I am now. But kind of realized that wasn't the path that I wanted to take. Wanted to pursue stage management, which is really where my interest was, and I started researching programs. Found one in Boston that would have kind of created a program at an undergrad for me, but given me a master's, which felt a little strange. And just kind of the draw of Columbia, even though it was a new program, a new in terms of stage management, was a big draw. Just having the access to New York and just being able to use that as a laboratory.
So, again, your bachelor's was in theater or
It was a
also stage
it was a
management?
double major. Colgate has a small theater program. Small theater department is really a liberal arts school. So it was a double major just in theater. There were no concentrations within
Right,
theater. So theater and education, kind of always knowing at some point that
right.
I was interested in getting into the education realm. So
Teaching, but here's my question, right? Everybody wants to be in theater, right? When you're kids, right? In fact, one of the ways I would take care of my daughter over the summers is I would put on these little plays for her and her friends as a way to like babysit them, and I called them the Shelter Island Players because we
it's a
would
great
we would
name.
we would crash at some friend's place in Shelter Island. Move through, but when did you decide that you didn't want to be, I guess, in the lights as opposed to controlling them in every other aspect?
Yeah, well, oddly enough, I was never that kid who wanted to be on stage. It was just never an interest of mine. I have an 8-year-old daughter. She loves doing that kind of stuff and performing, and she's a dancer, and and wants to get into theater. But that was just never my interest. I guess at least on that side of things, I was kind of always on the shyer side. Never wanted to be out in the spotlight and under the lights, and kind of got into the technical side of theater in high school, and kind of just stuck with it.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? What do you think the draw is? Because again, I think of like I've always kind of been on the periphery of theater programs. I was lucky that in my undergraduate, we were literally like a lot of the art labs were right across the hall from one of the theaters, and you have these interactions. Photographers are always popular because every actor wants a headshot.
Sure.
So I get the draw to hanging around actors. They're interesting people, but again, I guess the question is what drew you to want to control the apparatus?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just found my way there. I was lucky as a kid. My parents were big theater goers. They still are. So they brought me to a lot of theater. So I was always kind of interested in it. Got to high school, wanted to be involved, and I just kind of showed up during tech of a play my freshman year, having not been involved at all, and just kind of asked if I could help. And they put me on the stage crew, started teaching me how to do things backstage. And honestly, I think it was Mr. Fetterman, who ran our drama department. Kind of, he saw something in me as a high school freshman, and started, without me even realizing it, gearing me towards stage management. I guess he thought it was a good fit for me, and every step of the way I enjoyed it and liked taking on the challenges. I loved the interaction and the collaboration with all of the different parts of the show. I'm kind of, like you said, getting to be in and around the actors, but also I loved working with the technicians and kind of pulling all those people together. So, stage management was kind of the natural, path for me from that point.
So, I know that and we've been involved with Stephanie Sertich, who's of course the coordinator for the theater program at Humanities. Christopher Weston is currently running the program while she's on sabbatical, and we've talked about developing programs to get some of our students who are interested in being obviously in the lights to also consider opportunities either behind the lights or backstage in the production aspect of things, because I guess we believe that I don't know whether it's supposed to be a fallback or it's some sort of something easier to achieve. But I guess I would ask this question: we know that that for actors, like Dustin Hoffman said at Tootsie, it's 95% unemployment.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Is that the same case for folks in the tech aspect of the theater industry?
No, on the technical side, it's kind of opposite that. They're almost always looking for more people to take those jobs and fill those jobs. And that's a big part of why I think Stephanie wanted to bring me in here. I met Stephanie working off Broadway. I stage managed a bunch of plays that she directed, and she kind of got this job on my radar. And a lot of what I've been doing since I've been here, since I came in 5 years ago, is trying to increase the awareness of non-acting theater jobs to our students.
All right. So, I mean, before we get into that, coming to
Yeah.
LaGuardia and some of the work you do here, let's talk a little bit about, what were of your experiences on Broadway, right, or off Broadway. Talk about some of this. What were some of the highlights of some of the work you've done in the off Broadway field? And people, by the way, I've even been on the board of an off Broadway theater company, and actually the guy who ran it has been on our show in the past, Chris C.J. Hopkins. But so I have a little taste of that too. But I'm interested in like some of the productions you've been involved with in the professional field.
Yeah, like I said, most of my career was kind of in the off Broadway, which there's a lot of really great things going on down there. I really started professionally with an off-Broadway theater company called Intar. It's a Latino theater company, Latino playwrights writing new works in English specifically. And so, I did a whole season there that kind of tied into my thesis work with Columbia. So that got me 4 professional jobs right off the bat, doing their entire season. And just kind of kept kind of each job would lead me to meet new people and take me in different directions. I kind of fell into doing a lot of new works, which is really fun for me to work on. Helping to develop a new piece of theater, new plays. So I've done a lot of that. I've had some really fun projects at the Public with their mobile Shakespeare unit that kind of takes Shakespeare around the 5 boroughs. We pack things up into a van. We little did I know it when I did that show there. We performed across the street in Queensboro Correctional. So we went to 4 or 5 different prisons. That was one of my favorite experiences in theater is seeing the reactions and how Much Ado About Nothing hit those different populations around the city.
Yeah, you triggered a couple of thoughts for me. I remember reading Joe Papp's biography. I think at one point the Public Theater they had like some sort of flatbed truck that they would drive around, park, and literally do it right off the truck.
Yeah, I mean that's
right?
kind of how the Public started. It started as this
Right.
mobile Shakespeare unit, and they did like they went into had a truck or a van or whatever, and they drove around and found places, and they hopped out and they did their show. And it was a big part of what they did in the early years of the Public, and then they kind of got away from it, and then I don't know, but
Right.
10, 15 years ago they started reviving it and making it one of their goals is to keep that up, and so they're doing one of those productions every year.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was living in Fort Greene, that park, there's this one area where there's this staircase, and it literally looks like it was set up to be a stage, like an old Greek
Mm.
theater, like cut away into the mountain. But people were like going down the steps as opposed to, into
Yeah.
the up in the mountain. The other thing it triggered is I was watching while I was doing some work around the house over the weekend. I caught Laurence Olivier's Hamlet. It was like I had it playing in the background, and I was struck. You forget how many quotes come from that play.
Yeah, well, it was really interesting, because Shakespeare in general is kind of thought of as this, not very accessible these days, and it's hard to
Right.
understand the language, and it's only for the theater elite. But it was amazing how the prison population really like they understood every word of it, and they could really Much Ado About Nothing. Like I don't know, they could really just relate to the characters and understand a lot of jokes that are in there that most of us don't understand and don't see in the text. So it was really fascinating getting to see that.
Okay, so let's talk about coming to LaGuardia. So, you're saying you met Stephanie working with her in off Broadway?
Yeah, we were kind of connected through Intar. I was stage managing a show. She was brought in as an assistant director, and we kind of, we hit it off, had a professional connection. And then when she started directing some plays on her own, she would call me to come in and stage manage for her. So we did 3 or 4 shows together off Broadway. Really just worked well together. We understood each other, and obviously I think that's really helped us here. But I guess it was back in November of 2016. I was I was driving my family down to Pennsylvania for Thanksgiving, and I was at a rest stop on the Jersey Turnpike and got a text message, a huge text message from Stephanie, kind of outlining this job at LaGuardia as the technical director. That she really wanted me to jump in and do it. I had to go through interview process and everything like that. But it was interesting because it was kind of at a point in my career. My daughter was 3. My oldest daughter was 3 at the time, and I was starting to rethink the direction of my career at that point. Theater's a tough tough business, and with the family, being out every night of the week, doing shows until 11 o'clock, 6 nights a week. It was really exhausting, and it was keeping me away from my daughter, which and just not really the family life that I wanted. So, I don't know, her text kind of came in at the right time. I was between jobs. I just finished one up and didn't have any new job lined up. So I kind of jumped on it, and it was a substitute line because I was filling in the middle of the school year. She needed somebody in it for January to help with a project. So it kind of got pushed through really quickly and gave me a built-in trial period for a semester to see how it went, which was really great.
And at this point, are you full-time or part-time?
I am full-time.
All right. So what do you find yourself doing at the college in this role? And you're saying you came in as a technical director, but you transitioned into stage
Well,
management?
so my job title as a CLT, the position is listed as the technical director for the theater program. But we're
I see.
kind of in an interesting point with the theater program. We don't have a scene shop, so I'm not sitting and building scenery all day, which is actually fine with me. um, Obviously we would love to have a scene shop, and we're trying to find ways to make something like that happen. But I was kind of brought in to I think of it more, at least in theater terms, as a production management job. I'm helping run the budget, and I'm helping bring all the technical elements together for everything that we do. But I'm doing a lot of other, helping with a lot of other administrative things as well.
So talk about some of the productions that you've been involved with since coming to the college.
Yeah. Well, the first one was kind of crazy. Like I said, I came in January of 2017. My first day on the job literally was to put a set together for the remounting of the 2016 production that I wasn't here for, Passing Strange, that had been invited to go to the Kennedy Center Theater Festival. So they were remounting it a couple months after it had been done, and putting some rehearsals in. So I had to walk in and find the scenery in the storage room, which I had never seen. I had never seen the show. I had to figure out how to put it together without any kind of ground plan or designs. Nothing was left behind by my predecessor. So I had to kind of figure it all
Right.
out, put it together in a theater that I had never stepped foot in, and make it work. So it was a kind of a hectic introduction to LaGuardia. But we've done a lot of really great work since then. I think the biggest one that stands out to me is our con with Stu, who was the writer of Passing Strange, but he then came and worked with us in 2018, and we created a new piece called Columbus is Happening, that we wrote. He worked with our students, and we devised a piece and wrote new songs that he put together based on the ideas and work of our students, and that we also got to do a performance of at Joe's Pub at the Public. So it was that was a really fun one.
Yeah, and for the audience who may not know, when you use the phrase devise, I think we should probably unpack that a little
Yeah.
bit, because I know it's a central aspect of Stephanie's approach to running the
Yeah,
program, right?
absolutely. She's actually spending her sabbatical writing a book about devising theater. So, yeah, it's becoming a bigger and bigger part of what we're doing here with the theater program, and it's really working with the students to create a play instead of starting our production class with a script. Grabbing a Shakespeare or whatever script and handing it out to everybody and saying start memorizing your lines, and then we start putting it together. It's there's a lot of different ways of devising and different methods, but the professor will come up with a bunch of different prompts, whether it's something about current events or social justice or whatever. We've done shows focused on Black Lives Matter here. We've done shows, a show called Unpacking Home that was centered around homelessness in New York City, and so kind of creating, like, finding whatever source material, having the students discuss it and study it, and then they start to write, and they bring in, they just write and write and write for the first few weeks of the semester. based on prompts from the professors, and then we take what they wrote and we turn it into a show.
Right. How does so? What's the thinking there, as opposed to, for example, running through the classics?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's good reasons to do either. What we've started finding is um, there's I think there's a bunch of reasons that go into it, right? So there's our student body at LaGuardia in general is an extremely diverse student body. They're going through the classics. They're more written for people who look like me, for the white male, Eurocentric. And that's not the type of work that we feel serves our students the best. So we do struggle when we do an established play. We try to find plays that are more geared towards a diverse student body. But devising actually, lets the students kind of create something that they're interested in around issues that they find interesting or important. We did one. We've devised 3 pieces actually remotely since the pandemic started. And one of them dealt with fake news. One of them dealt with immigration. So really things that stood out at those times in history to these particular students, which is really exciting to us to give them that opportunity.
Right. And I mean, I remember talking about this with folks who were in the theater program before, teaching the program before. One of the things that our students have to come to terms with is when they do get into the theater industry as actors, that historically the casting, they have this idea of what the character is supposed to look like, and the history of theater is predominantly white Eurocentric. Even go all the way back to the Greeks,
Sure,
even.
absolutely.
Right? So this is something they have to come to terms with. How does the devised theater help them for that? The fact that, I mean, they're coming out of doing these productions where it's about them. They're completely, the casting makes sense, and then they find themselves in an industry that still has this issue.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the works that we've done, that we've devised with our students, seems to really empower them. It gives them
Right.
ownership over the work. I think that they're all a little scared when they come in on day one and we don't hand them a script and we tell them that they're going to help write the script. But most of them really embrace that challenge. And it is a challenge. It's a lot to do in a semester. Normally it's just memorize the script and start learning your blocking and try on your costumes, which is extremely difficult and challenging. But now we're also asking them to write the material, and then they might not perform the material that they wrote. They might be performing something that a classmate wrote. They might write something that doesn't get chosen and doesn't end up in the script. So there's some things for them to work through with that. But the other really great thing is it teaches them tools that they can use going out into the real world, right? To go out into this crazy theater business, tools to help create their own work. So it gives them the ability to start writing things that they care about and that are important to them. So that those are things that we want them to take out into the world and write their stories and find ways to perform their stories for people who are used to seeing those Eurocentric classic pieces.
Right. I mean, and I know, for example, the British are big on blind casting, whatever it's called, right? I mean, Joe Papp started that Shakespeare in the Park, right? But also that I think looking at the folks who are succeeding now, I would say more so in areas where there's room for the need for properties, right? Not necessarily in the networks, but the people who can write their own material really have an edge. Because if you sit around and wait for your part, you could be waiting a long time. But if you write your part, I mean, then obviously you got to get it produced, but still.
Exactly. I mean, and that's kind of what the devising helps them with. It gives them that confidence that their stories are important and that their stories need to be told, and kind of gives them the tools on how to go out there and start to do it.
You also mentioned the Kennedy Center, and I don't think, again, uh, necessarily the audience understands the Kennedy Center and LaGuardia's experience with it. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. It's a mouthful. We abbreviate it to KCACTF, which is also a mouthful. But it's this great program run by the Kennedy Center in Washington, and they've kind of split the country up. I always forget exactly how many regions there are. Sorry, Stephanie. But there's each region in throughout the United States, it's split up. There's a festival for each region, and there's a big part of it is an acting competition. The Irene Ryan's acting competition where students can compete, and they do monologues in different styles and can win scholarships. There's shows that are done around the country that are invited to be remounted at the festival, just to share the work that's being done. And then it's also just a way for student theater makers to meet each other and connect with each other. It was really great. The last 2 years it's been remote. I think it's much more powerful when it's in person and they get to kind of be on a college campus together for a week and get to meet theater makers from other cities and other colleges. And we've seen our students create theater companies with those students and go on to work with them other places. So it's already like starting them on that networking, which is so important in theater. But we also bring in theater professionals that do workshops, and they bring in four-year schools that you can audition for. And so there's kind of workshops and competitions in every part of theater that you can think of. So Stephanie has played a major role in that in Region 1, which is the region that we're a part of.
And our students do well.
Yeah, our students have done really well. Just the festival is happening. It just happened last week. We had a student who got to the semifinals in the acting competition. We've had a few finalists over the years. We 3 years in a row had finalists and one winner of the arts management competition, the arts administration competition that Stephanie has run. It's called Aspire. We had a stage management winner a couple years ago, who's that student's actually coming back as a college assistant to stage manage our show this spring, Sarah Samante. We had somebody win the 10-minute playwriting festival competition 2 years ago. So our students have done really well. We put a lot of work into it, and we do a lot of work with them behind the scenes, but they've had a lot of success.
We're going to take a quick station break. You're watching What's Going On and listening to What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on Audio Web Radio, WLGR. My guest today is Michael Alifance, who is with the Humanities Department's theater program, and he's a CLT, or College Lab Technician, and he's the recipient of the second annual Godfrey Cheaping CLT Service Award. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the award itself. First of all, had you ever heard of it before you even, found yourself eligible to win
it? To be honest, I hate to say it, but I hadn't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a new award, so this is only the second year it was given out. But I didn't know anything about it until Christmas Day when I got an email that said not only that I had been nominated, but that I was receiving the award. So I found all of that together in one email.
Who nominated you?
Our program, or not program work, our department chair, Vera Albrecht.
All right. So first of all, you had to have been chosen over all the other CLTs in the department, right?
I guess. I don't know what the criteria were or how many people could be nominated, and I don't know what that process was. But
yeah, it would be good. Well, we could possibly ask Vera that question. And so you didn't even know it, and all of a sudden you found yourself as a finalist, or they just said, "Oh, you've won."
Yeah, it was a really kind of a strange email. It was, we're writing to let you know that you've been nominated, and then the next sentence was you've been chosen as the recipient. So it was all in one.
And once you found out about it, I mean, did did you learn anything more,
Um,
or there was just because I'm
Oh yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. Well, they did. They kind of included a little bio about Godfrey Cheaping and the work that he did here at LaGuardia. I mean, I don't have it all memorized off the top of my head, but he did quite a few years of service as a CLT, as a senior CLT, I think, and kind of worked his way up. I believe he worked a bunch in the environmental health and safety department. But yeah, I think it was just
And I'm guessing he must have passed, because the one image I found when you got the award, the one image he looked like a young person, right?
yeah, I believe he
So
passed a few years ago, if I'm remembering correctly, when I did a
right.
quick look. And I know that Olga, who had come down to hand out the award to me.
We've got a picture, by the way, that our engineer Chris is. In fact, Chris has got it up on. I was able to get my what was it? This whatchamacallit, my Twitch stream going again. And so we've got this picture. You're a little crushed because of the way you had to be fit into the, but so that's Olga Calderon
Yes, yeah.
from and Olga from Natural Science.
Yeah, so when she
Right?
came down to give that to me a couple weeks ago, she said that she actually worked with Godfrey as a college assistant underneath him or something. So they had a relationship, and once the award was announced to the school, I received a few emails of people who had worked with him and knew him and who also knew me, and just kind of congratulating me, but saying that they felt that that I was deserving, and that I kept up his spirit of work for the college going. So.
Yeah, there's actually a little something in the Twitch stream, uh, whatchamacallit, the chat section, and it's from Munchkin Munchin Kinas. So it says, "Hi, Michael. I'm so glad you are the recipient of the GCS award. The breadth of knowledge about your field is impressive. It is great to have someone at LaGuardia that has had the type of experience behind the theater scene. This provides another perspective about the performing arts. Amazing work. We are lucky to have you as part of our community." Olga Calderon.
Well, thank
It
you,
is
Olga.
and she's saying it was college wide. And Olga's actually, Olga's also just another LaGuardia star, in the sense that she started as a technician, but she has worked her way to full professorship, studying away, getting her PhD and doing her work, and so she's another star of LaGuardia. But I think one of the things, and what's kind of interesting about this is that our college lab technicians. I know a few of them in our department. Uh, would you say you're unsung heroes? Would you say? Because sometimes I get the vibe from that's the way they feel.
It definitely feels like that at times, and we're not full-time professors. There's interesting sets of rules that surround how we can work. So yeah, it does certainly feel that way at times.
Yeah, Olga's correcting me. She's saying she was a student
Okay,
with him.
great.
But yet, so yeah, and I do get it, and then one of the things that happens at the college is that people, it's very there's very easy to get slidey around students who are looking up to everybody, and they're trying to say, so what is a technician versus a professor? And many of our technicians teach,
Mhm.
right? I don't know if do you teach any classes?
I have not taught any classes yet.
Right,
I keep thinking about it. The scheduling becomes really difficult because I'm
right.
not allowed to do it during normal work hours, which means that I would have to do either night classes or weekend classes to make it
So
happen.
maybe when your daughter gets into college.
Yeah, so it's just not as much as I am interested in teaching a full class. It's not something that really works well with my schedule with two little kids at home. So.
Right. Uh, but again, unsung heroes, and it's one of the things that people don't, now that we have AHIAs and AHIOs and this other, our higher education officers, and our former president was very big on hiring those, as opposed to the techs, and one of the things about that is that a technician is married to the program,
Hmm.
right? Your role, your one role is to support theater, and you could never be transferred from that program into another role. This is my understanding of
That's yeah.
this,
I
right?
mean, that's my understanding as well. So yeah, and I mean, there is tenure involved with CLTs. So starting this coming fall of 2022, I'll have my tenure in place, which is great.
Nice.
um, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the nice things is kind of having that security. But yeah, I mean, I really am tied to the theater program specifically.
Yeah. So it better succeed,
I
right?
hope
It
so.
better keep on. Well, like once you get your it's CCE they call it. It's continuous something or other. Continuous. And I'm sure, and our engineer, who's also a technician, is probably Chris is probably saying like it's this or whatever. I know. Oh, Olga keeps chiming in here. She says, as a former CLT, I can relate to the tremendous responsibility and work CLTs do. This was a small way to recognize the work that the CLTs do every day at LaGuardia. And so, I mean, it was all a surprise to you. But if somebody had said to you, "Hey, Michael, why do you think you deserve this award?" What would you say to them let's say they'd asked for a narrative?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of came into this from the theater world, being a stage manager and production manager, and I kind of attacked this job the same way I do with any other job, and just kind of do the best I can and put the best work forward. And I feel like I had the added bonus here at LaGuardia of having the students and seeing how they responded to what I brought to the program, which really kind of just pushed me further. So I kind of just kept taking things on. There's the overseeing of the technical aspects of our productions, which I mean was the part of the job description, the main part of the job description when I came in. But I've taken on student advising, which I've really enjoyed, as I get to know the program and our students more. I've started an internship program that I've tied to our capstone class, giving students class credit, but also getting them internships at places like HB Studios, our own LPAC down the hall, the Public Theater, the 24-hour plays, are some of the companies that we've worked with. Um, I've been working on getting a stagecraft course. I've written a course proposal that we're pushing through curriculum committee. So kind of that kind of stuff. But then I think also since the pandemic started, I picked up even more to help the program out, and to help kind of the whole department out. I became a TA for all of our theater classes, ready to jump in and help with any technical issues with all these new, Zoom and Skype and Blackboard and all these different things that we were suddenly using. I took all of the professional development classes that were being offered to kind of bring me up to speed on those things, and I put myself out as somebody who could assist anybody in the humanities department who needed help, and just kind of kept bringing work and trying to focus on opportunities for the students. We presented 3 virtual productions over the pandemic. And I fully produced separately here at LaGuardia 2 rounds of the 24-hour plays Viral Monologues, which was performances that our alumni and current students took part in. And you know this also, but became a team leader for an innovation grant from the school, for a team combining theater, music performance, and music recording technology, but to create programs to connect our students to real world opportunities in their fields, and we're going to be starting to implement some of those this spring. So I think kind of all of those things, as Vera took over as department chair and seeing the work I was doing on those, probably helped me out a
Made
little
the
bit.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I think that what we're going through, a lot of people certainly have put a lot of. There's been a lot of tension about what we can't achieve, what we can't do. You know, But then there's the faction or the folks who have, pushed through that and have, like for example, Tom Dempsey's folks
Yeah,
have done some great work with their music performance programs, music recording programs, as far as continuing to put on
absolutely.
their exhibitions. And I think another thing is that one of the humanities department, which is such a complex, I mean, what are we, 10 or 10 areas, 9 or 10
Yeah,
areas, but interestingly enough, so here's an acting program that also is, could have a relationship with film and television and or the music programs. And I know you do work with the music programs for your musicals, right?
yeah, we do, and it's something that I've been trying to do more of, and bring more of to our program is more collaboration with the music program, and more collaboration with the film and TV program. They're doing work and always need actors, so we're trying to set up some things that our actors can be used for their films. We've had some of their students come and film some of our projects and help us out with things. So we do, those collaborations, and I think that those are really important and really just benefit the students from all of the programs. And so it's something that I am trying to push to get more of happening, for all of us.
Yeah. And I would also just say another area where CLTs sometimes feel left out is that with the union. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble and get an email from Lara Beatty or something about this, but you know, the lion's share of concerns tend to be about whatever the faculty is going through. And I mean, gratefully, the CLTs are part of our chapter,
Yeah,
as opposed to, for example, the HEAs or AHEOs or HEOs. HEAs, uh, there's only one chapter that's for the entire, which is bizarre. That's for
interesting.
the entire
Mhm.
university. I don't know if you knew that, but I know when we're in union meetings, for example, Gary Volo, our chief lab tech in fine arts, is always, you know, saying like, I want to, CLTs want to hear something on that
Yeah.
end as well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten terribly involved with the union on this end. I'm very involved on, in Actors Equity, which is, the actors and stage managers union, on that side. But I haven't quite gotten pulled in, to this one yet. But it is true, and I do hear a lot of those, emails and information that comes out that don't necessarily take the CLTs into consideration. Or
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, the union is the final frontier of involvement. I mean, it's different for everybody, but for example, I got involved with the department, then I got involved or my program, then governance. Now I hang around the
yeah,
union folks, even though I don't really have a role. And I every once in a while I'll say, you know, let's get them, that kind of thing. By the way, our own Dr. Riccio is putting in her piece and saying yes with 2 exclamation points. We love our CLTs, double exclamation points. Special shout out to our radio CLT, Christopher Pope.
yes,
And thank you for all you do every day, Mr. Pope, who has to suffer me week to week
yes. Thank
and
you, Chris.
say things like, Hugo, your mic's not on, and your TV's on behind you, turn that off, stuff like that. So this is the part of the show. I don't know if the folks who are out there watching and listening have questions. I don't see any right now on the ticker, but I was going to say here's where we talk about the future as well. So you want to talk a little bit about the future of the program or yourself?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. Let's see. For the program, I mean, we're really trying to push this idea of introducing the students to more non-acting, positions and job opportunities, that are out there. Still being involved in the world of theater and in this industry. We have some really amazing and talented actors that come through our program. But as you were, kind of mentioning earlier, this hour, there's such a limited number of acting jobs out there, and at any given time, at least of the unionized actors, like you said, 95% of them are unemployed. And so, we're trying to introduce students to these programs that, or to these job opportunities that can still keep them in a field that they're interested in. There's so many different things, and that's kind of the work that I've been doing with our innovation grant. Is, we're working with Signature Theater and the Public Theater to bring students into those spaces and kind of get tours of not just the theaters, which are, kind of the fancy, fun part to see, but all to show them the administrative offices and the costume shops, and just to show them all the different people that it takes to put a show up, to run successful theater companies. And then, there'll be follow-up programs as well, to that. So we would love to get some more technical classes. So we're working with the school. We started the stagecraft course proposal, which is the first step. Trying to get that put through. We're really close on it, and hope it might not be next year, but hopefully by the year after we'll have that course running. And I think once we get that up and we see students coming through it, and hopefully we'll be successful, we hope to start bringing in more technical classes. I think we also would love to start some arts administration classes. We haven't gotten too far on that, but we're talking a lot about how to implement arts management classes for our students as well.
And I mean, I can say this: you don't have your tenure yet, so you don't have to say this, but I can say this because I have tenure. Is that the things we're trying to accomplish? They call for things like space and funding for things like supplies and machinery, capital goods. I mean, and we've tried to work when I was in my role of deputy chair. I was trying to work to see if we could get funding for this, to create a set shop and create a costume shop, so that that's possible. And I know that the president is big on jobs, and I just when I hear all this talk about STEM, and let's put this for that, and I'm like, I'm living in a town, or I work in a town, right, where one of the number one industries is the performing arts, and they've got jobs, and our kids could get those jobs if we can give them the training and the education.
Yeah, we're starting to have some conversations also with the president, but also with ASAP, and trying to come up with some programs to start some of these classes, because some of the skills that we want to teach through lighting classes, they'd learn about electrics work, and could take that and go into theater and have a lot of really great jobs, but also could take those skills and become electricians and have a lot of work around the city or anywhere they choose to live. Stagecraft, learning some carpentry skills. Again, those really can translate into so many different fields, which is why I think that President Adams seems to be in favor of that. And so we're starting to have some conversations to create these kinds of classes and programs with ASAP or whatever other ways it can go.
I think you mean ACE.
With ACE. I'm sorry. Yes.
Adult
ACE,
Continuing
yes.
Education.
I'm sorry. Misspoke. Thank you.
That's fine.
But
we should work with ASAP too.
Yeah, we'll work with anybody. But yeah, so we're trying to find creative ways and new ways of using those skills, which can really be used in the theater industry, but also can be used in so many other ways as well. And hopefully we'll get some traction on that soon.
Yeah, well, I know the president. It's all about funding.
Absolutely.
I would love to. My dream is to turn the 9th floor of the C building into the humanities suite. Actually, the 8th and 9th floor. So you guys would have your own state of the art, theater lab, where your students would learn about every aspect of the theater program, from soup to nuts.
We would love that. Sign me up.
One thing. So, but how about Michael Oliphant? Do you have any personal interest? I mean, do you do anything theatrically outside, or is there anything you work
it's hard having the full-time job here kind of limits what I can do professionally. I still work with the 24-hour play company, producing their shows around the country. We're trying to get them back to in-person shows, but I've been doing before the pandemic had been doing shows of theirs in LA and in Minneapolis and a bunch in New York City, which are big benefit productions raising money for their educational programs. And so I started with them as a stage manager, worked my way up, and I'm now a production manager for them, kind of bringing all the pieces together. So I definitely, still working with them. I do occasional event work, just randomly around the city if it fits in with the schedule. I had been doing some events with the public, some different series like one night performances at Joe's Pub. So I'm keeping my feet wet doing those kinds of gigs and jobs.
And what's in store for the theater program? What kind of productions are you and Chris and Stephanie, obviously when she comes back, going to be working on?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we are gearing even more and more towards the devised theater side of things for a number of reasons that we talked about earlier. Also, it's a lot easier budget wise, and the financial atmosphere right now. Our budgets are much very much reduced from where they were pre-pandemic, which I guess shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But devising lets us kind of do things like that for less money. We're really excited. We're going to be doing, or if everything kind of keeps going the way it is right now, and Omicron and whatever other variants are floating around out there cooperate with us. Our spring production is on track right now to be back live on campus in front of an audience. So we're
What's it going to be?
It's going to be a devised piece. So there's no
Oh, I
title.
see.
I can't even tell you what it's about. One of our adjunct professors, Safiso Mabena, is going to be directing and helping the students devise. She's got a number of ideas, but is also waiting to hear what the students are interested in. So she's not locking them into any one thing. But she's reaching out to her professional network, or bringing in some movement and musician and puppetry experts to work with the students, and trying to do something a little bit different that we haven't done. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be in mid-May, so we're gearing up for that one.
Yeah, one of the most amazing productions I've ever seen. Certainly one of the best theater productions I ever saw. I mean, puppet productions I've ever seen, but also theater, was the Bread and Puppet Theater out of in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where they did a production about, interestingly enough, about Columbus, and using language from his, so-called diaries,
Mm-hmm.
whether the originals or what, of the language he used, and it was eye-opening politically, but also, and it was total theater. I don't know if you know Bread and Puppet Theater.
Yeah, I
They
know
do
of it.
total theater.
Yeah.
So it's like 1 minute they're unanimated, all of a sudden they're animated, and when at the end they're unanimated again, and it leaves you in that no man's land of what just happened. Like, is this is what's real, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so there's a lot can be done with theater, with with puppets.
Yeah, we've kind of been going through our adjuncts and bringing them, different adjuncts in to help us with directing these shows, and they all have really amazing professional, theater careers going on. So they all bring something really different. So we're really excited to see what Safiso brings to this. I'm hoping to see some of her puppet work. So
Do you remember the gentleman that I observed last semester? You
yeah,
were
Jermaine Rowe.
his.
Yeah.
That was a fabulous class, and I always say I know when I'm watching a good class as an observer, because I want to get
Yeah,
into it.
that was
I
good.
want to start. I want to start. I wanted to show some kid how to dance around the stage or something,
Yeah,
and
if I
but that
remember correctly, you were in one. It was one of our first classes back being in person.
right,
So
exactly, yeah, it was like the second one. He needed a little
you had
time
to
before,
readjust. But
but I just loved it, and I always love observing a class I've never observed before, in a department in an area that's not my own. So I love that.
yeah, no, it was fun having you there. It was fun having seeing an audience preview. Getting your
Right,
feedback.
totally. So we're pretty much almost out of time. So I don't know any last words that you'd like to share, or anybody maybe you'd like to thank.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess first I need to thank Vera Albrecht for nominating me. Thank you to Olga and the rest of the committee for choosing me for this award. Thank you to Stephanie Surdich and Chris Weston for kind of helping guide me through and giving me all these great opportunities and freedom to do these projects that I want to work on. And thank you and your crew for bringing me onto the radio show today.
You got it. One last thing from Olga is, I love the idea of expanding the offerings for students. My daughter has a BFA, yet never made it on Broadway, but it didn't stop her dreams from being in the field. She teaches younger children, and her experience in behind the scenes works helps her put recitals together every year. There is so much people can do in the fine arts. And we'll have to end it with that.
Thank you, Olga.
Uh, yeah, so you've been watching and listening to What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on LaGuardia Web Radio, and my guest today has been Michael Alafance of the Humanities Department's theater program, we've been talking about his being the recipient of the second annual Godfrey Cheaping CLT Service Award. It's great that we get to acknowledge all the great work that everyone does here at the college, and we're going to go out the way we came in with some credits for the Bogdanovich. What's up, Doc? I don't know if you've ever seen it, Michael, but I think it's one of the funniest movies ever made. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.